Hello, welcome. This is introducing the third video on compassionate storytelling, which may seem a little strange, but is actually the heart of compassion-focused therapy, which has been scientifically proven to be effective in helping you deal with anxiety and stress and trauma, depression. All these things can be relieved by coming to memories of times when we felt safe and cared for. And sometimes you might find it hard to access this for yourself. And so these three little videos that have come out in succession, and which I will link up for you, are giving you the strongest feeling of compassion that has been available to provide for you, linking with sounds and smells and peaceful imagery. So I hope you enjoy. It's for fun, but it also, as I says, has a deep underlying purpose of supporting you if you're feeling any anxiety or emotional difficulty. So thank you very much, and we'll begin. After breakfast, Uncle Ray went into the kitchen and started cutting up bacon rinds and finding crusts of bread and crumbling them up. And then he took these in his hand and went out into the garden, and crouching down by the old stone slab, he started to whistle softly through his teeth. And an answering call came from in the shrubbery, just the same. And Uncle Ray whistled back, and a bird came hopping up to him. And Uncle Ray began to feed the bird. And then more birds came, and Uncle Ray whistled some more. And birds were there all around in a circle, having their breakfast. As Uncle Ray scattered bits of bacon rind and crumbs of bread. And one brave bird came hopping right onto Uncle Ray's palm and pecked from the bowl of his palm. And the little girl stood on the worn doorstep of the cottage and watched her uncle feeding the birds, marvelling at how wild birds knew it was safe to come for their breakfast at Uncle Ray's hand. And then, turning back into the kitchen, she went through to the living room, where Granny had got out the ironing board and was starting to do the ironing. The little girl went and sat on Uncle Ray's chair, which was next to Granny's chair, and watched Granny as she lifted the sheets and shook them out, and the shirts, and began ironing and humming softly to herself as she did so. The little girl was entranced by the sweet presence of Granny, absorbed in her ironing. She could have stayed all day, but she remembered Uncle Ray was out in the garden. So she wanted to go and see him. So she crept away from Granny's presence and went out into the garden. This time she turned to the left and went round the back of the cottage. And here she found the old bathtub, which Uncle Ray used as a nursery for his goldfish. She swished the water surface, peering inside, looking to see if the baby goldfish were there, like they were last time. But no, all she could see were lots of tadpoles swimming around under the leaves. Next she thought, maybe Uncle Ray's in his shed. So she went to the shed just by the bathtub and unlatched the door and had a look. Here Uncle Ray used to make cabinets out of wood, and she used to sit on the step of the shed and watch him planing the surfaces and watching the dust rising up around him and the sunlight coming through the window in long rays and lighting up the dancing wood specks, and trace her fingers in the sawdust on the floor, drawing faces and swirling the dust into shapes. But Uncle Ray wasn't here today, So she shut the door and followed the little path by the old fish pond. The paving slabs overhung the water, and the water looked dark. And here there were goldfish swimming around in the murky depths, and lily pad leaves, but no lily pad flowers right now. And going across this path by the pond, she came to the greenhouses. Granny's greenhouse first, and Uncle Ray's next to it. Uncle Ray wasn't here, but she couldn't resist looking in Granny's greenhouse, opening the door so the warmth hit her from the inside, and stepping in and looking at all the old ceramic pots with seedlings in and plants standing on the shelf covered with yellowed newspaper. She remembers once seeing Granny there with a paintbrush, cross-pollinating flowers. She closed the door and turned along the path by the new fish pond, bigger than the old one. And more fish in here, but no Uncle Ray. So she strikes off down the garden towards the vegetable plot, and then turns off to the big new fish pond that Uncle Ray had been digging when she last came. And here he was, his big form standing strong and silent, looking into the pond. And as the little girl drew close, she could see the fish were there, all around, come up to the surface, as though Uncle Ray were having a conversation with the fish, like he had with the birds. "Are you feeding them, Uncle Ray?" the little girl asks. "Oh no," he said, "I did that earlier this morning. They're just coming to see me." "I do like the smell in the garden," she says, "especially the hedges near the front gate." And Uncle Ray stands up and goes over to a tree nearby and jumps and grabs a leaf. And he goes up to her, crushing the leaf in his hand, and holds it to her to smell. "Do you like this smell?" "Oh yes. It's like mint. It's eucalyptus," he says. "Come, we've got mint in the herb garden." and he takes her to the herb garden near the vegetable patch and crushes mint leaves for her to smell, and other herbs as well. It looks like it might rain soon, Uncle Ray says. Let's go and sort the birds out before it does. And he takes the little girl by the hand and they go to the aviary. Coming in the aviary is like entering a magical world. So many birds. And Uncle Ray opens the cages and goes in to the garden area where the birds are. And they come and stand on his shoulders and on his head. And he puts out a finger and the birds will hop on his finger and chirp at him, and he'll chirp back. And the birds seem to know that he's putting them to bed because they fly into the enclosed area of the aviary. And Uncle Ray shuts the inner door and comes out into the passageway where the little girl is watching. Here, would you like to blow out these seat holders for me? He says. Oh yes, this is the favourite task. The little girl holds the seed holders just as she's been taught and blows gently on them. And all the chaff flies out, leaving the seeds in the little container. And then she takes the scoop and looks for the right bin to match the seeds in the container. And some of the seeds are small and round, and some of them are bigger and mixed. And she finds the right container and tops up the bird's food and hands it back to Uncle Ray. He's been filling the water bottles, and then they move on to the next enclosure and do just the same. There are 3 enclosures in all, and there are grey birds with orange beaks and speckled budgies in blue and green, and yellow canaries. Beautiful to listen and watch as Uncle Ray stands amongst the birds, and they come and hop on him. When all the birds have been put to bed and all the seed holders blown out and refilled and the water bottles topped up, it's time to sweep the floor with all the feathers flying around, and the chaff littering the ground. So they sweep the floor and tidy up. The little girl using her own dustpan and brush. And then it's time to go. And the rain is starting. Just time to get home before it gets heavy, he says. Would you like a piggyback? And he kneels down so the little girl can climb on his back. And together they jog along the garden path, past the lawn where she likes to make tents out of broom handles and old tablecloths. And the roses are nodding under the raindrops, and it's all seen from the high vantage point of Uncle Ray's back.